Mom, we're leaving! Leave my daughter alone, you filthy street rat!
The morning Emily's world shifted forever began like any other. Sunlight glinted off glass towers, engines murmured beneath the city hum, and wealth whispered through every polished inch of her life. Emily had always lived in comfort, chauffeured to school, cherished endlessly, and carefully kept away from the rough edges of the world. But destiny never knocks politely. Sometimes it barges in through the side door. As her father's car rolled through the older side of town that morning, Emily's eyes caught a glimpse that made her heart pause. A little black girl, about her age, barefoot and crouched by the curb. She was sketching shapes into the dust with a stick. Her clothes hung loose, worn thin, but her eyes, they held a spark that came only from surviving storms. That girl's name was Hannah. Emily didn't know it yet, but that fleeting glance would alter the course of both their lives. Days later, curiosity tugged stronger than caution. Emily slipped quietly past the family's high iron gates, trading polished shoes for the thrill of something real. The pavement under her feet felt strange, gritty, alive, untamed. And there she was again, Hannah, sitting beneath a peeling billboard, softly humming to the rhythm of the wind. "Hey," Emily greeted, voice uncertain but kind. Hannah looked up, startled, yet her smile came easy. "Hey," she echoed. That was how it began. From that day on, their secret meetings grew. Quiet laughter shared over stories and scraps of fruit. Emily brought sandwiches from home. Hannah shared songs she'd written from hope and hunger. Two girls, two worlds, one simple, unguarded friendship. Have you ever met someone who reminded you what real life feels like? Someone who shakes your comfort and wakes something raw inside you? Because for Emily, that person was Hannah. Days melted into weeks, and those hidden meetups became Emily's escape from her gilded life. Hannah's laughter sounded like freedom, unpolished, sincere, untouched by privilege. Emily would sit with her on the cracked pavement, ignoring curious glances from strangers as her designer dress brushed against dust and her heart soaked in something richer than comfort, truth. They spoke about dreams, the kind that bloom in silence. Emily longed to be seen for herself, not for the weight of her father's name. Hannah dreamed of sitting in a classroom, of writing stories that belonged to her, not ones the world wrote for her. Together, they created a small, invisible world between them, one that wasn't rich or poor, just real. One bright afternoon, Emily handed Hannah a tiny notebook. "I thought you might like this," she said, a shy smile tugging at her lips. Hannah's breath caught. She held it delicately, as if it might vanish. "I've never had one before," she whispered. And that day, she wrote her first line. "The streets taught me to survive, but friendship taught me to live." That's what Emily and Hannah were. Proof that light can bloom even through the cracks of concrete. But light always draws shadows. Emily's father began to notice. Her absence, the whispers, the smudges of dirt on her once pristine shoes. The driver mentioned detours. The maids exchanged quiet rumors. One evening, suspicion became certainty. He followed her, and when he saw the narrow alley, the barefoot girl, the laughter echoing off chipped walls, his expression hardened. That night, he said nothing. No raised voice, no lecture, just silence. And silence, Emily would soon learn, can wound more deeply than anger. By morning, her freedom was gone, her phone confiscated, her driver replaced, every movement monitored. She wasn't just grounded, she was caged by concern. And Hannah waited, and waited, and waited. Until one afternoon, she caught a glimpse of Emily's face behind the tinted glass of a passing SUV. A flash, a reflection, a heartbreak. Two worlds once joined, quietly torn apart again. Have you ever lost someone you were never even allowed to love? The silence inside the mansion that week was suffocating, the kind that doesn't just fill a room, it seeps into your bones, turning every breath into an echo of what once was. Emily sat by her window, tracing invisible shapes on the glass, her thoughts drifting back to laughter, the kind that didn't care who you were or where you lived. Hannah's face lingered in her mind. The dusty smile, the stories, the songs that made ordinary days feel like freedom. She wanted to tell her father that she wasn't doing anything wrong, that friendship didn't come with a class label or a price tag. But his gaze had become a wall, cold, tall, and unyielding. That evening at dinner, she finally spoke. "Father," she said softly, "you don't understand." He slammed his hand on the table, silverware clattering like thunder. I understand perfectly, Emily. That girl is from the streets. You have no business with her. Do you have any idea what this could do to our reputation? The word struck her harder than a slap ever could. Reputation. That's all she was to him. Not a daughter, but a reflection. A symbol, not a soul. Emily pushed her chair back, trembling. She's not what you think she is. She's kind. She's enough. His voice tore through the air. You will not see her again. Do you hear me? She did hear him, but she also heard the sound of her own heart, screaming beneath the weight of his command. That night she cried until dawn, but by sunrise her tears had turned into resolve. If her father built walls to keep Hannah out, she'd find a way to climb them. That weekend, before the world woke, Emily slipped out. No driver, no guards, just a hoodie, sneakers, and the quiet fire of a girl who refused to lose what was real. When she reached the alley, Hannah was there, sitting right where they'd first met. Emily? She whispered, disbelief and hope colliding in her voice. Emily smiled through tears. Did you really think I'd let him win? They embraced, tighter than before, as if holding on could rewrite fate itself. Two girls, two worlds, one heartbeat. Have you ever risked everything just to hold on to something real? It didn't take long for the storm to come. By noon, Emily's absence had already sparked chaos at home. Her father's voice roared through the phone lines, bodyguards scattered across the city like search dogs. But Emily didn't care. Not yet. For a few precious hours, she was free again, sitting beside Hannah, eating roasted corn, laughing at stories that had no beginning or end. Then came the screech of tires. A black SUV halted just a few feet away. Emily froze. Hannah's smile faded, the car door flung open, and there he was, her father. Eyes blazing, tie loosened, anger simmering beneath a face that once symbolized safety. Emily, get inside this car, now. Her heart dropped. Dad, please. He turned to Hannah, his voice venomous. You. Stay away from my daughter. Do you hear me? Hannah stepped back, terrified but defiant. Sir, I didn't. I said stay away. He barked, and for a moment even the street fell silent. The neighbors peeked from their windows, not in concern but in quiet judgment. They didn't see two children. They saw a line being crossed. Emily ran forward. Don't talk to her like that. She didn't do anything wrong. But her father grabbed her arm, his grip firm. You're coming home. This ends now. As the car drove off, Hannah stood frozen, watching the only person who ever treated her like an equal disappear behind tinted glass. The dust rose, the laughter vanished. Back home, Emily was confined to her room. No phone, no visits, no music, just silence and guilt. Her father called it protection, but she knew it was punishment. Have you ever been trapped between love and loyalty? Torn between the world that raised you and the one that freed you? For days, Emily refused to eat. She sat by her window, staring at the city that now felt like a prison. Somewhere out there was Hannah, hungry, alone, and probably wondering why Emily never came back. Then, late one night, Emily made a choice that would change everything. She wrote a letter, a confession, a promise. She slipped it into an envelope and whispered to the wind, "Find her." Because if the world wouldn't let them be friends, she'd make sure the truth would. The next morning, Hannah sat in her usual spot under the cracked billboard, tracing circles in the dirt. She hadn't seen Emily for days. Each sunrise hurt a little more. The world around her carried on. Vendors shouted, buses rattled, life moved. But inside her, everything was still. Then, a young boy ran up, panting. "Are you Hannah?" he asked. She blinked, confused. "Yes. Why?" He handed her a folded envelope. "A pretty lady asked me to give this to you," he said, then darted off into the crowd, as if afraid to linger too long near her part of town. Hannah stared at it, heart pounding. Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper. Emily's handwriting spilled across the page, neat, careful, trembling. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to leave you. He found out. I'm not allowed to go outside anymore. But you need to know this. You changed me, Hannah. You showed me what real friendship means. I'll find a way back to you. I promise." Tears blurred the words, but her heart understood every one of them. Hannah pressed the letter to her chest and whispered, "I'll wait." Have you ever received something so small, a note, a call, a word, that made hope feel alive again? That letter became her light. Every night, she'd read it beneath the flicker of a street lamp, tracing Emily's name as if touching a prayer. And then slowly, determination replaced sorrow. Hannah decided she wouldn't just wait. She would act. The next morning, she took that same notebook Emily had given her, the one she called her treasure, and began writing again. Not stories this time, but a message. Friendship has no class. Love has no price. With borrowed crayons, she wrote it on old cardboard and stood by the roadside, holding it high as cars passed. People stared, some laughed, others looked away, uncomfortable, but a few slowed down, watched, wondered. Among them, a journalist. He stopped, rolled down his window, and asked, "Who wrote that?" "I did," Hannah said, voice steady. "It's the truth." And that's when the story that started as a secret friendship began turning into something the whole city would soon talk about. That same evening, her face appeared on local TV. "Street girl teaches wealthy daughter the meaning of friendship." The clip spread like wildfire, from news feeds to living rooms, from market stalls to boardrooms. People whispered, argued, cried. Some called it scandal, others called it beautiful. When Emily saw the story on TV, her breath caught. There was Hannah, smiling shyly, clutching that same notebook, her notebook. And then the camera zoomed in on the sign. "Friendship has no class. Love has no price." Emily's tears fell freely. "She did it," she whispered. "She really did it." Her father stared at her, speechless. Under the same sun that once divided their worlds, Emily and Hannah met again, not in secret this time, enough but in front of cameras, strangers, and a city that had finally decided to listen. Emily's father, once rigid and proud, began to soften. He started small, donating books, funding community projects, even setting up a scholarship in Hannah's name. Not out of guilt, but out of awakening. Because sometimes it takes the courage of a child to remind an adult of his own humanity. Emily and Hannah stayed friends, not in secret anymore, but openly, visiting and learning from each other. From the other side of silence, toss stories where real voices rise and truth finds its echo. Like, subscribe, and share this story. Because somewhere someone still believes that kindness can change everything.